Hey, Zach Carlson here, Redox Bio-Nutrients. I'm joined with John Parrish, also out of Nebraska. He is with Redox Bio-Nutrients. Today, we are coming to you with two distinguished gentlemen, Brandon Hunnicutt, who is the president of the Nebraska Corn Board, and also Brian Herbek out of DeWeese, Nebraska. He's part of Total Acre, a Redox dealer, and also a fantastic regenerative grower down in that south central part of Nebraska. Recently, the Nebraska Corn Board has been generous enough to fund a new nitrogen reduction program here in Nebraska. We at Redox are really talking about how to improve soil health, about how plant charge balance is extremely important, and how nutrients bring charge to the entire system, both soil-based and also plant-based. When we bring that all into a circle, we want to make sure that we're doing right by the plant and also the soil and the environment. So today we wanted to be talking with Brandon Hunnicutt and also Brian Herbek about this new program in the state of Nebraska to help incentivize growers to reduce their NUEs, hold their yields high, but also show that there is some change that needs to happen on the marketplace. So really, Brandon, we have been talking about nitrogen efficiencies for a lot of years. And it feels like that shift has come from recommendations to more of sustainability and accountability when it all comes down to it. So is this really the moment that nitrogen management truly becomes outcome-based instead of just practice-based?
I really think this might be the turning point. There's a couple different programs in place in Nebraska, and the Corn Board we realized there is an issue. And so we were like, okay, we need to put some funding into this because we want to see growers succeed, but we also understand the environmental impact that's going on, and how can we really incentivize growers to take that next step and really start looking at their own efficiencies. And hopefully this is the turning point, because to your point, we have talked about it for a long time. We've worked at it. We've tried different things, and there needed to be an incentive in place.
Yeah. So really, let's define what that incentive is. It's, in my mind, what I've read on the NRD database or website that is part of Nebraska is $15 an acre, up to 160 acres per entity. You need a soil test, you need a water test if it's irrigated. You also need a manure test if you are manuring that field. And then I believe May 15th is the deadline for that one.
Sounds right.
Sounds right around there. So that's kind of the structure that's here. We've had some prior acts in Nebraska that have been utilized more on a pound basis. This is just simply to get below one to one NUE on that first.
Yes.
So really want to help that out. This NUE program really rewards producers for hitting a measurable efficiency score rather than just reducing pounds. Does this signal really a new era in performance-driven agriculture?
I think it does show that we're looking at performance-driven agriculture, because I really think that if we can show farmers, let's start looking at the NUE score, let's start looking at how you're doing. Can we drive that efficiency down and maintain yields?
Yeah.
We will see some changes taking place. And I think it's been that challenge because, we'll see it if we just say, hey, let's just drop 25 pounds or 40 pounds, whatever the number is. Maybe there's some results, maybe there's not. But if we can start having guys look at it, okay, what is it, the actual pounds per nitrogen I need to produce a crop, that becomes a whole different discussion point. And hopefully we're trying to make it as simple as possible. So it's not a lot of hoops to jump through, but it's starting that baseline of how can we gather not so much us gather some information, but the farmer gather some information that'll be useful for them.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit earlier off camera, that it was more, we need a vehicle. We need a vehicle to go down the road to get us to a point where we actually feel comfortable with doing this on scale. And that's what that's what you guys are trying to do, is incentivize growers to use vehicles and tools to get to a point where they can then act in a different way for the future, because water is extremely important. So Brian, you're the one actually that brought this up to me. This is you pinpointed this as a very great vehicle that could be used. So with $15 an acre incentives coming from your grower hat at this point, and volatile fertilizer prices that don't seem to be sitting still anytime too soon, is this program more about cost savings, or is it by protecting yield by optimizing our?
Yeah, just trying to figure out that most efficient way to get the bushels that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah,
is key.
Is it all about growing more bushels right now?
No. Our farm, we're really trying to focus on, what our ROI is going to be.
Yeah.
We're finding that growing less bushels is going to be more profitable this year.
Okay.
And when we have programs like this where we can kind of be incentivized to be more efficient, I'm all over it. And these are the little niche things that we need to be looking at growers, trying to help improve the water quality and keep the farm afloat so we can do this again for future generations.
You bring up a good point. So obviously there's a lot of risk here. There's a lot of risk when you start taking nitrogen. You start talking about nitrogen with growers. It is a very hot topic. The old traditional way was 1-to-1, 1-to-3, all those insurance units that are out there. So, Brian, how should growers think about this risk? Because improving NUE means tighter margins for error at this point.
Yeah. Biggest thing is educating. We need to understand what we're doing, what application we're making, timing, products we're using, placement, just everything that we're doing. We have to understand why we're doing them. You kind of mentioned it a while back, what is the why part of it? And everything that we do, hence the Redox name, what is that reaction going to be when we do something, whether it's applying or, any of that stuff.
Everything has a charge. Every fertilizer has a charge, and just so happens nitrogen has multiple charges when it depends on what form you're in.
You got to address that there. You mentioned that it's a risk and a tighter margin. I don't know if that's where we want to go, right? There is a risk because you reduce, but in the area that they're targeting, that program specifically, you're at a 1 pound of nitrogen per bushel. Well, I think you're more risky in that environment because look at the money you're spending, right? So now you've reduced your cost, so your risk is probably flat. Probably didn't increase risk. You actually just replaced it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's a more risky environment to be in. I think you're actually honestly probably better off.
So it's a change of mindset, right? Yeah. And obviously we've seen really two things in the marketplace right now. We've seen growers getting older, but also the younger ones starting to come up through that, wanting to make that change. It's not that the older generation doesn't want to, but I think that risk is where they get really kind of nervous about it. But your different change of mindset might be what we need to be talking about on that side. So, John, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's about this program. This program requires soil, water, and manure sampling in its structure to some extent. Are we entering a phase where if you're not measuring it, you're not managing it, becomes really mandatory? Like the way that we've been doing agriculture in the past, do we now need to change because the easy button is not making noise anymore when we push it? It's not popping back up. So do we need to measure and maintain kind of that trajectory? We need to start measuring more, right?
I would say, yes, you need to maintain it, if we're doing it. Mandatory, I don't know if it's going to be there, but you said it, if you're not measuring it, you're not managing it, right? Now look at your economics.
Yeah.
That's where it all comes back to is if you can quantify you're getting X pounds of nitrogen in your water, why not throw it into your program and say, this is an efficiency I can gain.
Yeah.
And now you talk about your risk and it's lower, right? You just spent less money because you have that efficiency in your water, you have that efficiency in your manure.
Yeah.
So you're just quantifying it at this point.
Yeah. And Brandon, you talked off camera about that, how you have to deal with a lot of different areas of the state, farming practices, weather, nitrates in the water, soil practices or soil application practices, those kind of things. Why did the board and you make this program a little bit more wide open this time?
I think a lot of that reason for it being more wide open is just to incentivize farmers to do it, because it's, when you make it too prescriptive, you can always find a reason not to do it. Right. So you can say, okay, well, I'm in this area of the state, or I don't have the right equipment, or I don't have. So let's make it a way that every farmer can look at it and say, hey, can I fit it into my operation? Yes, I can. What are the changes I need to make? What do I need to measure? Most of that is pretty simple to do. A lot of farmers are already required to do some sort of measurement through their NRDs, especially those of us in certain areas of the state with high nitrates. There's just certain things going on that, all right, how do we make this so a farmer will come at it and say, I can do that without too much extra hassle? Because we've probably all been in things where we've looked at it like, I now have to jump through 27 hoops to get that. And I'll spend more time, I'll spend more dollars on my time than I will coming back. Let's make this as simple as possible.
Yeah, because time matters.
Yeah.
Time matters. And you brought up a good point there. These programs are tied to water quality. This is where everything in the base. I mean, I'm Brandon, you might be part of the National Corn Board or the Nebraska Corn Board, but you're also a grower yourself, right? And water quality is driving a lot of decisions in the marketplace right now, especially in Nebraska, especially this program. So do you see this as a proactive stewardship or just early stages of future regulation? The carrot or the stick?
I think it's really at this point proactive instead of worrying about what's the regulations coming down the line. Let's really be proactive on this. Let's see what we can change that we're able to. The things that we can control, let's control them without saying the legislature or whoever, the feds have to come in and really put the hammer down. Because I think at the end of the day, the vast majority of farmers want to do what's right. It's just a lot of times we maybe just don't know or we're not comfortable doing that because of whatever reason. It could go back to the way grandpa used to do it. Well, grandpa did it. Maybe he's still involved with the farm, so I can't make that change.
Yes.
Yeah, he's still right. Or, but now as the next generations are coming up, when you have your hands on as much information and technology and learning that they have that we didn't have, they're able to see something that's going on in different places of the United States and say, oh, I wonder if I can bring that here. And it's not, I have to go to a conference or I have to spend my money to do that. I'm just opening up the phone and watching a video.
Yeah. And I also think that the newer generation, the younger generation is able to compartmentalize taking risks a lot more than the older ones did because of the time that they had to grow up through.
Correct.
Like that was a tough time.
Yeah.
Like you never knew if your crop was actually going to make it that year. So you had to do things to help mitigate that risk. I think the risk has changed. So really, Brian, what is the biggest barrier preventing more growers from truly optimizing nitrogen efficiency today? Is it knowledge? We talked about that pretty heavily. Is it data? Is it risk tolerance? Is it mindset? I mean, we talked about all these things. What is the biggest thing or combination of them?
I think it's a combination of all of them, but I think for a lot of growers, it's the knowing part, the education side of it. I mean, there's enough data out there, enough research has been done to make some confident decisions to become more efficient. We just need to go out and seek and look to those peers out there that are doing it. There's plenty of us out there that are achieving these goals with confidence, and we just got to get more guys like us talking, kicking the ball around, and starting to get some of these practices implemented.
Yeah. So I'm going to toss it back to you, Brandon. What technologies or practices, I'm actually going to go to all three of you, but what technologies or practices do you believe will separate growers who hit at least a 1 NUE score and those who don't? What have you seen as the biggest mover to just start out right off the bat?
I think really for a lot of guys, I think the easiest thing doesn't even really have to do with technology or it's practice based is one is specifically split application, right? Because the data goes all the way back. Remember seeing the early UNL recommendations of here's what you can do on split application. So that's pretty simple for most guys because either one or two things. Either, okay, if I don't have the equipment, somebody else around me does. So if I want to only put half rate on up front right before and then come back in and let's reduce that rate later on. I don't have to go to a sentinel necessarily. I don't have to fertigate if I'm not set up to do that, especially if you're in a rain-fed environment or you're in do some of that, right? So there's little things that are the easiest thing to do. I mean, besides going all the way up to the, I'm going to have satellites and drones sample everything, and I'm going to have them exactly know what that plant's doing at a specific time. We could go that route, but that's a whole lot of extra cost. One is no cost.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe
here at Redox, we really talk about we're not in the business of reducing fertilizers. We're in the business of reducing inefficiencies. And if you can find the inefficiencies in your program, then you can actually start making meaningful change. So, Brian, keep going on what you see could be the first easiest way. What you've seen over the last 15 years of getting to the point that you've gotten to make other guys feel more comfortable.
For me, is looking at the data and data from trials that we do. We do scads of them across our operation and, looking at them, making sure we're putting good data in it to get good data out. And that's what's helped me the most, looking at different products that are out there along with the applications. There's just so much of that we just need to reach out and grab.
Let me follow up with a question. Why is, and this might seem like a very, very kind of uneducated question here. Why is data so important on your farm? Like just for you to make yourself feel more confident.
Just so we know. I mean, when we try something, it's not just once, we have to prove it, and it gives us that confidence to move something to our entire operation. Anybody can make something work on 20 acres, but I want to see it work on the entire operation. And when you make that move, it's uncomfortable at times, but when you have good sound data, there is some ease about it.
John, I love you as an agronomist. You're awesome. What have you seen over your career with working with growers from the West to the East to yourself? What are the biggest practices you've seen of change that have been meaningful in ROI and nitrogen, whatever?
If you talk about what are the practices that have change, it's balance. It's finding the balance between nitrogen to phosphorus to all your nutrients, your split applications. There's some efficiencies to be found throughout that in a soil sample, whatever you call it, whether it's tissue, I think where the hesitation is essentially that lack of education. And that's helped me probably the most. Like you said, Zach, I've been from east to west. I've been south to north, out of the state. Everybody does something a little different. We all get to the same goal. Yeah. And that by far is the craziest part. There's guys out there putting 100 pounds out and hitting 220, 250. So guys are taking the risk for us. Let's just have that conversation and educate each other. That's what I took from it, I guess. That's where I'm at. I've learned a lot just going around and talking to folks. So
knowledge is power. Yeah. Knowledge is power. Knowledge reduces risk because you feel more comfortable and you want to do it. A lot of growers that we talk to, when they want to do something, they put their heart and soul into doing it. When they're forced to do something, then all of a sudden now they put up a wall and they don't know. It's hard to climb back over that one once they put that wall up. So I think at the corn board, from a corn board's perspective, that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to incentivize them to make a change, to see something so that they could scale that across everyone else.
That'd be 100% correct.
Okay, gotcha. Well, as we close this up, what are the final things that you want to say, Brandon, about this program, the Nebraska Corn Board, what you're working on, what you look forward to in 2026?
I think the biggest thing is just making sure that we're looking, whether it's me as a farmer or me as a corn board representative or the corn board, what are those next things that we can do to really push some of this stuff forward to make sure our farmers are out there making the best decisions possible for their farm, that they can keep farming the next year, while at the same time, how are we going to make sure that the soil and the water that we have in the state stays as productive as possible? We get the groundwater moving in the right direction when it comes to nitrates, and not looking at it that, well, this is a 50-year-old problem. It's not my concern.
Yeah.
And so 50 years down the road, they're not saying, well, it's a 50-year-old problem, so it's not my concern, but that we're being proactive and finding those areas that can really incentivize farmers in general to just make the best decisions on their farm.
Brian, what do you see? It's a complex answer to a very complex question. It's in 2026, we have a very, I don't want to keep bringing it up, but those input prices are not going to come down. This is now is the time. And we should have been starting this 5 years ago, but I see the resistance that came from it. I'm worried about if those input prices come back down, do we go right back into the same thing that we've always been doing?
Yeah, we just need to step out of our comfort level and start, start being more efficient and start being more just proactive when we come to finding something that is going to change the issue that we have.
Yeah, totally get you. So here at Redox, we really want to bring tools and solutions to the marketplace to talk about plant charge balance, but also incentivize growers through governmental or independent organizations that are state-based, and bring knowledge to the marketplace that can help out with those kind of things. So here at Redox, we thank you for listening today. If you have any other questions, please reach out to the Nebraska Corn Board. Brian Herbek himself, if you'd like. He's very passionate about this. John and I are crossing the state constantly, and we want to educate growers with what we're doing at Redox. But if you're not interested in doing what Redox does, reach out to someone that has knowledge and you find a common goal with them about helping growers, helping the environment, helping the soil regenerate itself. We need to start making change, because unless we start making change, we're going to be stuck in doing the exact same thing we always do. So just wanted to bring a tool to you guys that's there. Reach out to the NRDs. Also, they're going to be getting more information over the next couple months about this. May 15th is a deadline to sign up a field per entity on that one. So please do that. Even if you don't do it, please sign up. But we thank you today. Thanks, Brandon, for joining us, and Brian for bringing this information to us. It's been great. So thank you. Awesome. Thanks, guys.